I'm the youngest of 3 children. I had a very traditional, upbringing as far as mom and dad loved each other. Typical middle class. We were obviously raised Mormon, and my father held lots of callings in the church. He was a bishop when I was 3 years old, a very young bishop, and my mom was the Relief Society president when I was 10. So when I was 19, my father, I had come home from work. I was 17 and a half. I came home from work, and my father had asked me to come into the bedroom, and he told me that he had cancer. And I remember after he told me, I went into my room, and I remember getting down on my hands and knees and praying and asking God to tell me whether or not he was going to be okay, if he was going to make it through it. And almost immediately I received a really heavy heart, but also a sense of peace of knowing that he's not, but that it would be okay. And so for 1.5 years, my dad fought cancer, and then he died when I was 19. And I was really angry with God, and I started to question a lot of because when a parent dies, you start to think well, am I going to see them again? Is what I was taught true? Is it am I actually going to be with my family forever? And I started just really questioning my faith, and I started not living for the Lord. I started dating individuals that were not a part of the church. I started to just kind of question everything that I had been taught. And then there was an interaction with a family member that I had that asked me, and I were talking about my father and seeing him again, and she basically had said that everything I had thought growing up about how that we would all see each other again as a family would be up to God, and that even though we had done, I had thought we had done everything that we were supposed to do in order to see him again, she felt like we needed to leave to God's discretion, even though we had been doing what we had thought we were supposed to be doing, or I thought we were supposed to be doing, in order to fulfill that promise of getting to live eternally with one another. And so it really sent me into a faith crisis and a spiral of not just questioning everything. And I met my husband Derek when I was 20, and we ended up getting married in 2018, and we ended up getting pregnant with my oldest son, Garrison. I was excited to be a new mom. I was excited to be a new mom and experience and raise this sweet little child. At 23 weeks and 3 days, my son Garrison was born, 17 weeks early. He was 1 pound and 12 ounces and 12.5 inches long. This was in July of 2019. I was given pretty devastating news that my son only had a 17% chance of survival. And they told me that if he were to survive, that he had an 85% chance of being mentally retarded, is the words that they used. And at that point, the neonatologist had asked me multiple times to abort my pregnancy. She asked me 8 times to abort my baby in the span of an hour. And I just remember finally being like, I'm like, you need to leave. Like, no. And I remember laying there, and it was like similar to the prayer that I prayed when my father had cancer. And I remember laying there and praying and asking God to help me and to only give me what I could handle, and that if Garrison's life, he had already had a name, if Garrison's life was not gonna be a life that he felt fulfilled in, or that I think my greatest concern was like the load that I would have to carry if he was like a medically fragile child. That I think was my greatest concern of like, could I mentally handle a child that needed medical attention 24/7 around the clock, because that's what we were looking at. And I remember praying and saying the words of like, if his life is not going to be one that he feels is fulfilling to his little body, then please allow him to go freely when he does arrive Earthside. And the moment that I feel like I was saved was the moment that they pulled Garrison out of me at 23 weeks and 3 days, this little baby, and he let out the smallest little cry, and they quickly whisked him away. And I remember in that moment thinking and feeling that God didn't abandon me, and that he loved me, and that he was there for me, and that this entire Nikki journey that we were about to head into, he was gonna be there, and that he was gonna be fine, and that he truly was going to do remarkable things with his life, because he was meant to be here. He was stable, he was completely fine, and we're there for 108 days, and they had prepared us to go home with a child that was gonna need feeding, like a feeding tube, who was gonna need oxygen. They prepared us that he would have chronic lung disease, that he would have cerebral palsy at one time. They told us that he would have heart defects, that he would have a laundry list of illness that would affect his life. I never doubted for a second that he was not going to have a normal life from the moment he was born. I remember when they were talking to me about the chances of him having all of these different ailments, I remember thinking, just in my mind, being like, no, that's not happening. I knew I wasn't in denial. I knew that the only way that I made it through those 108 days was solely because of the faith that I had in that one moment in the OR. And I felt like my faith in God was completely restored. And it pains me almost to say that it almost was like a wake-up call for me to be like, no, I'm still here with you. Even though you forgot about me, I haven't forgot about you. We literally left with a miracle, and my testimony is truly based off of my son Garrison, and the fact that like every day I get to wake up and be a mother to a miracle. And he's just like, he's just a reminder of the fact that God never left my side, and he's still never leaving my side as I raise this child that was so meant to be here with me, and I was meant to be his mother. And so as he's, he's turning 5 in July, he plays sports, like he doesn't have cerebral palsy, he doesn't have chronic lung disease. It's an honor to be his mom and be like a witness of just the miraculous hand of God that he has in our lives. Having a faith crisis, and then now I'm like, not necessarily in an identity crisis, but like sorting through what my newfound identity is as a Christian and sifting through the beliefs of like, this is what you believe, but biblically. So having to like cross-reference, biblically what is correct versus what I was taught, I think has been the hardest part. So if you're dealing with a internal battle of trying to understand if you're enough and if your works are enough, through the grace of God, you are enough because he paid the ultimate price for your sins. And once you understand that, you will truly be set free. Yourself, your posterity, everyone that you come in contact with, you will view differently. You will be filled with love. You will be just the amount of grace that is given to you so freely because he did it for you.